Hello and welcome to Health Matters on Channels Television. Thanks for staying with us. I am Mary Alale Yusuf. Ears are important for hearing and making conversation. They can even alert us to danger. But when sounds become too loud or constant, it can be a nuisance. When one has a continuous sensation of ringing or some other noise in the ears, which does not seem to come from an external source, it is called tinnitus. According to Johns Hopkins, 15 to 18% of adults 18 years or older report some form of trouble hearing, and risk rises with age. The World Health Organization adds that over 1 billion people between 12 and 35 years are at risk of hearing loss due to prolonged and excessive recreational sounds. Joining me to talk about tinnitus is Professor of Otorhinolaryngology at the College of Health Sciences, University of Abuja. Professor Titus Ibekwe is an ear, nose, and throat surgeon at the University of Abuja Teaching Hospital, president of the Foundation for the Sick, and a health policy and management specialist. He joins us from our studio in Abuja. You're welcome to the show, Prof.
Thank you very much, Mary, and happy Children's Day.
I wish you the same, at least to our children. Let me first start by asking you, what are the causes of tinnitus? Why does it happen?
Okay, you've done an excellent intro on what tinnitus is all about. But it's also important to let us know that tinnitus, which is noise in the ear, could be objective or subjective. This is very important because that will help us in understanding the possible causes. So those subjective ones, you do everything, is only the person concerned, the patient or person affected, that perceive the sound. But the objective one could be heard by the physician or perceived with some special instruments by the physician. So when we also talk of causes here, the classification beyond objective and subjective is worthy of note that it could be unilateral or bilateral, which means this noise could only be in one ear or in both ears. And the common causes, number one is infection. Infection of various types. It could be viral, it could be bacterial, it could also be fungal, especially those infections that are so deep that they have eaten through the eardrum, otherwise called the tympanic membrane, and gotten to the middle and inner ears. Viral infection is so much incriminated in doing this. Even the COVID-19, which is still a case study, is known that one of the long COVID modes of presentation, that is for some survivors of COVID, is having this tinnitus, constant ringing, buzzing in the ear, or banging noise. It comes in different shades. So beyond infection, tumors can also lead to this. Tumors in the part of the inner ear that we call the cerebropontal angle is usually very commonly involved, vestibular schwannoma and their likes. So they sit in an area that they keep on causing irritation on this nerve that transmits sounds, which has been converted from sound mechanical to electrical energy to the brain for transmission. Beyond this, trauma. Okay, people who have had serious head trauma following accidents can also develop tinnitus. Drug. Certain drugs that we call ototoxic drugs, certain drugs that are toxic or injurious to the inner ear, especially the hair cells of the inner ear, the outer hair cells. So common among them are the class we call the aminoglycosides, the diuretics, even some anti-cancer drugs can also lead to this. So when this happens, tinnitus ensues. And furthermore, noise, environmental noise. In your intro, you mentioned that. Recreational facilities, in workplaces, where individuals are so much exposed to noise. So this noise leads to noise-induced hearing loss, and it commonly comes with tinnitus. Then Meniere's disease. Meniere's disease is an inner ear disease that has three common features. One is hearing loss of sensorineural type. You have vertigo, which we have discussed in this channel some time ago. Mm-hmm. The eyes turning and the movement of the environment, which is not real. And also this tinnitus being part of it. The other one, which is very important, is stress. Stress. And it's important to stress on this. That stress is a common cause. And you can see me wearing a cap, no bullying. So those that are exposed to bullying in workplaces, at home, in school, they find themselves being exposed to traumatic stress. Those chief executives who don't find good time for themselves, who do not have good work habits, they have what we call cumulative stress. Those who have had shocking things happen and sudden losses of their ones in their life will have post-traumatic stress. So all this could be associated with tinnitus of various calibers. And once this is defined, the best and next thing to do is to make sure that you assess real health, you go to the health facilities, that you meet the health experts, the ENT surgeons, who will take their time to go through and find out the class of tinnitus that you have. They use their audiological equipments in conjunction with audiologists that work with them to further investigate and now define the particular type of tinnitus. Once we know the particular type of tinnitus and the possible cause, then we can start talking of treatment. But it's worthy of note that some tinnitus, the cause we can call idiopathic. Mm-hmm. And this means that you can search from today till tomorrow and you can't find the cause. So psychological problem is also part of possible cause of tinnitus.
So we've identified that risk factors would include age and, of course, noise, exposure to noise. Are there other risk factors like smoking or something like that? Things that people can stop or modify?
Yes, that is very important. Yeah, risk factors and even health issues. For instance, people who are diabetic and who are hypertensive and is uncontrolled may present with tinnitus because of, when we talk of hypertension, the pressure of blood flow across the vessels extremely high. So it's not only restricted to other parts of the body. The ear is not excluded from this list. So the blood supply to the ear will be with such a rush that it will give rise to this noise. And we know that alcohol and smoking, that's nicotine and alcohol, in fact, they have synergistic effect. So a combination of these two worsen the situation because they predispose to this hypertension, they worsen diabetes, they lead to atherosclerosis, they lead to narrowing of the vessels that supply different organs in the body, including the inner ear, and it leads to this increase in pressure that we are talking about. And of course, the resultant tinnitus or noise in the ear will ensue. So you're correct, Mary.
Since this person is hearing a sound or a roaring or clicking in the ears, does it disturb his sleep?
Yes, depending on the severity of the tinnitus. It is graded, so can grade to mild, moderate, severe. So those moderate and severe ones can affect sleep. In fact, tinnitus generally, they are worse in the night. And it's not witchcraft here. The reason is simple and scientific. During night, the ambient noise or the environmental sound is reduced to the barest minimum. So you have quiescent during night, and therefore you will tend to hear more that noise that has been existing in the ear during the day. But during the day, the environmental noise acts as a masker. So it competes with the one you're hearing in the ear, and therefore tend to be milder. But in the night, it could be terrible. And for some, it will just be as if they're beating drums in their head and their ears. So it leads to lack of sleep. And when this is not well handled, it becomes a vicious cycle. From lack of sleep, stress increases, mentation, people start losing confidence in themselves, and so on and so forth. So other chronic illnesses will also tend to worsen with the bad sleep. Hypertension, diabetes, and others, including mental diseases. People who are predisposed to mental illnesses. This becomes a trigger to its, evolving or getting worse. Even some individuals that don't have it ab initio, it can manifest. So it's a very serious situation. And one thing that is known, which we're not saying here to scare anybody, but it is real, is that the tendency, suicidal tendency, is very much associated with bad tinnitus that is uncontrolled. You get to a stage when one will get to hate oneself, hate the entire environment, and start asking questions, was life worth living again? So we should never allow it to get to that stage. And that's why initially I said that early presentation to the experts is very, very important. And again, I say that bullying anywhere, at school, home, or anywhere, must be condemned in totality, because a lot of people, especially young people that we see coming down with tinnitus and stress, trace it back, you see that it is associated with bullying. And that is why we are here campaigning against bullying at all levels and at every strata of life.
I wonder, can this inner noise compete with the conversation this person is having? Can it affect how he hears when somebody else is talking to him or her?
Absolutely correct. A lot of times, tinnitus is associated with hearing loss. So like the Meniere's disease, Meniere's syndrome that I've mentioned earlier on, is like a triad. They go together. First is sensorineural hearing loss. And second, you talk of this tinnitus. And the third, you talk of vertigo. So they almost always go together. A lot of people that have sensorineural hearing loss will present with tinnitus. But it's not always all that bad stories. Simple things like accumulation of wax in the ear, foreign body with children inadvertently insert in their ear, live insects entering the ear are those common things that can also lead to tinnitus. And those ones, once you're able to diagnose that, is easily manageable. So once we identify and remove cause, the patient is well again.
That's terrific. We're going to come back and continue on this line of solutions, but let's go on a short break first. Stay with us. We're coming back soon. Welcome back. This is Health Matters, and we're talking about tinnitus. You're on Health Matters on Channels TV. Tweet at CTV_Mary A. If you want to ask a question about the condition, you can also send email moalale@channelstv.com. Prof, you have already said that for some cases of tinnitus, it's just a matter of withdrawing the causative factor, like an insect or excess wax. But for the others, can you make it go away?
Yes. The first step, as I mentioned earlier on, is making sure that we are able to diagnose the cause. And I'm going to deal with them one after the other. Beyond these common ones that we have spoken, the other one that is common, which can easily be handled, is flying poorly pressurized aircraft. You realize that some people, once they drop from poorly pressurized aircraft, the noise is terrible and it stays for days. And some can even, in the process, have a burst tympanic membrane. So for such individuals, one is, as much as possible, to avoid flying poorly pressurized aircraft. Two, for those whose eustachian tube are already compromised, to use what we call the ear popper. The ear popper. As we normally do in this program, we gather a lot of things to demonstrate. So the ear popper is this. So very easy to use. So once you want to fly, you switch on the ear popper into the nose and take some fluid for like 5 minutes for each nostrils. What it does is to stabilize the eustachian tube. It helps in clearing the eustachian tube and even drawing out fluid that has been accumulated in the middle ear. You do in one of the nostrils and do on the other side. Even while the aircraft is about descending, you can do the same. And you will solve that problem for those who fly. Noise, environmental noise. So if you walk in a noisy place, you use what we call ear muffle. This is a sample of ear muffle. So all you do is very soft, like plastic. Use it to plug into the ear canal. It's very safe. So what it does is that it reduces excessive noise, which is if you must not or you cannot remove yourself from such a source. But every effort should be made to reduce environmental noise. If it is coming from power generating sets or heavy machineries and tools in workplaces, we use what we call encasing or noise protectors to shield such, okay? And at every time, the level of the noise in this environment must be measured to be sure that it's compliant. It's not more than 80, 85 decibel. But if it becomes so difficult, you use this. That becomes a saving grace. Then for our children that listen to music, sound all the time, or people who walk around the clock and they don't want the information being conveyed to be heard by everybody, it is better to use this type of, the one we call the earphone, rather than the earpiece. Because the earpiece completely occludes the canal and tend to channel all the noise, okay, into the ear without allowing some to escape, without also allowing the competing environmental or ambient noise, which this allows, to attenuate that level of noise that can be destructive to the ear. Now, for drugs, once you're able to identify the drugs that you react to, the first thing is withdrawal. Then the expert, the doctors will know how to handle that. subsequently going forward. After your pure tone audiogram, tympanometry, and the entire audiometric evaluation has been done, we'll be able to know the level of hearing loss for those who have associated hearing loss, the type, and the magnitude. That will help us now in the treatment. In some cases, individuals may need hearing aids, okay? Certain hearing aids nowadays will even come with what we call maskers. So you can tune that masker, which is a white noise, that will compete with the tinnitus you're hearing and tend to mask it, and you feel a lot better. So for in the night, those that their situations get worse in the night. So you go around with small music box like this, and you can also load what we call white noise inside it. Some will be like waves, in the ocean. Some will be gentle breeze, and depending on your choice, you just load it there and select the one that you love most. Switch it on and place it very close to your pillow while you're sleeping, and it helps mask the noise and also help you to sleep. So when we try all this and yet it fails, that means we're heading towards idiopathic. Then we turn towards what we call tinnitus retraining therapy. Okay? It's also done by experts. So you meet
you have to
ENT
teach
surgeon
the
and
person how to
cardiologist.
hear again?
It's series of training. No. Series of training that will recondition your body to accept that noise to a certain level. Psychologically, you'll be able to suppress it and carry on with your normal life. That's what the retraining therapy is all about. And there are some situations where we may need to give some special drugs, to treat, mask this noise, treat the cause, and finally, for situations where you have tumors, which I have mentioned before, like cerebropointal angle tumors, once this is identified, then surgery may be the final solution towards solving this problem. You go remove the tumor. For those who have perforated tympanic membrane, and that's where it's coming from, there may be need to go and close the hole in the eardrum. And for those that have accumulated fluid within the middle ear, the ear popper, which I have demonstrated before, is a veritable tool that will help solve this problem without traumatizing the eardrum. In absence of that, you may have to put an ear tube, which will help air to flow into the middle ear, dry the place up, and the person gets better. And it's not a one treatment stopgap. You make sure that you keep up to your follow-up treatment with your physician, your ENT surgeon, who will follow you in this journey to ensure that you get better.
Oh, wow. At least it's good to hear that there's hope for the person. But I heard you mentioning decibels. Is there something that you can use to measure decibels in your home, and make sure sound is okay, or in a factory or something?
Absolutely correct, Mary. You're right. Decibel is just the unit of measuring sound or noise level around us. Now, yes, we have certain tools that we can use in doing this. We have the one we call noise. It's like a noise detector or sound, sound level meter. Okay, sound level meter or noise level meter. So you buy it. It's just a small instrument, okay, that you can switch on, and it reads and tells you that this is the value of the environmental noise around you. But if you can't lay hand on this, we have conducted a research, which I published some years ago, that there are certain apps that you can now access free using your smartphones. You access them. They are equally good enough. So once you download it, and you switch it on, it reads like the meter that we have in your...
Prof, I'm sorry to cut in now.
It settles.
We've come to the end of the show. We're out of time, but that was beautiful. Wonderful to have you on the show, as usual. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being with us. Have a lovely day. I'm Mary Alale Yusuf.